I'll go on.
You
Yep.
ready?
I think there's two things I'd love to see happen.
Yep.
One of those is let's bring the best NBA team, best EuroLeague team, or the finalists of both leagues to Australia for a series around Australia.
Welcome to the Shooters Roll podcast made by fans for the fans. I'm your co-host, D-Swizzle. And tonight we've got a very special guest. Joining us tonight on the Shooters Roll panel is Danny Kordahi. Danny is the director and co-founder of DKM Blue, a multi-award winning promotional marketing and corporate clothing company. Danny oversees DKM Blue's sales and marketing direction. He is a respected entrepreneur, long-standing industry professional, and his professional career, he has acted as president of the Entrepreneurs Organization's Sydney chapter, as well as being an American Express ambassador. How you doing, Danny?
I'm fine, thank you. Thanks for having me on the show.
Great to have you on. Also, part of your credentials is you are a huge basketball fan and also involved in coaching the next generation of Australia's basketball talent here, teaming up with Mr. Magic himself, Steve Carfino, for #1 draft pick Basketball Academy. How you been, and how has COVID-19, how has #1 draft pick impacted? Mm-hmm. And also, how has #1 draft pick managed the COVID-19 situation?
Yeah, it's been quite tough. We run our academy throughout the year, all 4 terms of the year. So we run 10-week programs each term, and then once COVID hit, we had to shut down all our classes. Mm-hmm. So we went from running 13 classes a week to 0 classes a week, and all the kids were really upset and disappointed about that, but it is what it is, and we had to deal with that. And so we basically had to shut down everything, and we were fortunate enough to be able to return in the July school holidays, just finished last couple of weeks. So now we're back on court. Our school holiday camps were a huge success. We had a great camp with Coach Rob Beveridge, who's renowned as a development coach and NBL championship winner and gold medalist at the World Junior Championships in basketball. So he put on an elite camp for all the rep kids. So they were really excited to get back on the court and compete again. And then our Term 3 Academy launches today, basically. So we had our first classes back again. So it's great to see that, we've gone through the hardest part of COVID, and now we're back on court again and enjoying the great sport of basketball.
Fantastic. It's good to hear that, there has been some positives coming out of these challenging times. Tonight, we're going to talk basketball. We're going to talk about the National Basketball League. And joining us tonight is also my co-host here at the Shooters Roll. T, how you going?
Good. Great to be talking basketball again, for sure.
Fantastic. And also joining us tonight is the 3-point demon from my old hood, Blacktown. How you going, RJ?
Hey, D-Swizzle. Hey, T. Hey, Danny. How you doing?
Good.
Thanks, mate. First off the bat, I just wanted to get Danny's take on his experiences watching the NBL on TV and in real life, being there at the courts.
Oh man, I go back many years to the NBL. I still remember my first NBL game at the State Sports Centre, and it was a Wednesday night, and it was the Sydney Supersonics playing against the Canberra Cannons.
Supersonics, that's coming back.
Will Smythe, all the old names. And my coach at school said, "Oh, Danny, there's a game on tonight at the State Sports Centre. We need someone to go out and hand out some flyers pre-game to do a promotion." I'm like, "Yeah, I'll do it." So I get to the game, walk in, and the game started, and I've got these flyers in my hand, and I looked around, I'm like, I'm watching the game. Put those in the bin, and sat down, got some popcorn, and enjoyed the game. And that was my first introduction to basketball, and ever since then, I've seen it go through the highs and the lows, and from the Supersonics to the Kings when they formed in '88, watching every home game and seeing moving from the State Sports Centre at Olympic Park over to the Entertainment Centre, and seeing the full house sign when the D Train was playing in the early 90s at 10,500 a game was an incredible buzz, and all the way through to Gorgon getting his three-peat championships with the Kings. So I've seen all the highs and the lows, all the teams come and go, and we're still here. And I think everyone talks about the heyday and the glory days of the early 90s with Chicago. The Bulls were a household name with Michael Jordan, but I think these are the heydays now. It's really hasn't been in much better position than it is at the moment with all the NBL talent that we've got, the Australian talent playing in colleges in the US and in the NBA as well.
That's look, just in terms of the current state of the game, what do you think, if you can put down one particular aspect, what are you most excited about the current situation in the NBL?
I think the biggest thing that obviously the new ownership group from the NBL, Larry Kestelman coming in and bringing on board Jeremy Lolig as CEO, they've had the entrepreneurial flair come to the game, and I think that's something that we've lacked in the country for a very long time. And when I'm talking about entrepreneurial flair, it's not doing things the same way they've been done the whole time just because that's how it was done. What they've brought to the party is think outside the box, do something different, dare to dream something big. When would you have ever thought an NBL team will be playing against an NBA team in pre-season? Like the last few years, we've had some of the teams going and playing against some of the biggest names in the world, and that came from an idea. They're there, taking that further. The next Stars program, bringing in Terence Ferguson to Adelaide, who all of a sudden is now started with OKC. Brian Bowen. The names keep, LaMelo Ball. So all these household names, and what they're doing is bringing eyeballs to the sport in Australia. Not only eyeballs from all around the world, but also all the young kids. All these kids aspiring to be the next big thing. Getting highlights on basketball rather than just the other sports that they get to see every day.
You spoke there about entrepreneurial flair. That really comes home to you and to your family, particularly in the last couple of months. Big developments. Tell us about the Hawks and your family's connection to the now rebranded Hawks team.
Absolutely. I mean, everyone knows, a few months ago, the Hawks were in a bit of financial strife, and they went into administration, and the NBL took the license back. And my business partner and brother, Dory, put together a group of international buyers, and then they've taken over the license. And now, it's a whole new team is being built around that. They've been able successfully to lure back Brian Gorgon from China. So, the NBL's one of the NBL's greatest coaches, if not the greatest coach in Australia, back at the helm of a club like Illawarra. I think it proves to bring some exciting things in the future.
We talk about, the Sydney Kings being the marquee NBL team traditionally, but there's it seems as though with the star power that the Hawks, and in particular the new ownership, are bringing to the game this coming season, it's pretty exciting, isn't it? I mean, you've got bringing back Gordon to coach back in Australia, and along with your brother and Michael Proctor, you've got a former NBA powerhouse executive front office man in Brian Colangelo also being part of the ownership team. It's exciting times. There's going to be some budding rivalry here for top billing of the NBL's top team, is it not?
Absolutely. I mean, the Kings have always been the big brother to the Hawks, and they've always, I think it's that tide may turn this next season. You've got some of the biggest names in basketball working with the Hawks, and traditionally as the underdogs, and I think they're going to pull up some big surprises for the next season.
Disappointing season last year for the Hawks, 5-23 from the 28-game season. In your view, serious contenders for the coming season?
Yeah, I don't
when
think
it does resume.
I don't think you can look at what happened last year. It's basically there's a line in the sand. That's all gone. It's going to be a new team, new coaching staff, new ownership group, new network of connections, and they're not in there just to have a go. They're in there to win this. So they're definitely going to be looking at, ruffling some feathers, so to speak, and making some big changes.
Hey, Danny, I have a question.
Sure.
So before your family, your partner bought the Illawarra Hawks, which team did you vouch for? Like, which team did you go for? Was it the Kings?
I've always been a Kings fan.
So the question is, because you're like a part owner or you're associated with a part owner, is that going to change now? Like, are you not a Kings fan anymore?
That's a very good question. A lot of people ask me that same question. My heart's still with the Kings, but I've got two teams now, and I actually, as a junior, I grew up. I played for the Hawks in their youth league team in the early '90s, so I do have some connections down there, and I've always had those connections in Wollongong, and I've always supported the underdogs. But if it's Kings and Hawks at Sydney, I'll be quietly going for the Kings, and something there for the Hawks as well. We'll see how we go.
Are you gonna make that jersey like the Curry parents, like half? And
it is going to be an interesting season. The Kings were strong coming out of the back end. The majority of last season, and conceded in the final, given the shortened final series because of COVID-19. Is there, from your point of view, who is this coming season heavy favourites, or is there a heavy favourite coming into this coming NBL season?
Yeah, I think it's still very early at this stage because free agency only opened up a few days ago, so there's still a lot of movement with the teams, players still being signed. I don't think any of the rosters are finalised at this stage. So obviously Perth is going to be there. They've re-signed Bryce Cotton, I think for another 3 years, so they're going to be extremely tough as well. The Kings team's going to look so different. They've lost a lot of players from last season. Adelaide with the new coach. There's going to be a lot of changes. I think it's going to look so different to last year.
Yeah. The Kings did. I did see that Didi Luzada is back with them for this coming season. He was a product of the NBL's Next Stars program. Great program, bringing, like you mentioned earlier today, the spotlight onto our National Basketball League and drawing in great talent from the States. Is it going to be a hard act to follow from last year, given that LaMelo was here and RJ was here?
I think there's always going to be somebody new that's coming out. I mean, I know they're working on a number of players at the moment that can help build that profile. It is going to be a tough act to follow, but you don't know who's going to turn up tomorrow. Like, there's so many young kids that are developing and growing the game, and I think with LaMelo Ball and what his dad has done for him in terms of promoting the Ball brand, and he's a very smart man how he's built that brand, and people say he's put a lot of pressure on his kids, but you know what, I think they can handle it. They're used to that spotlight, so it'll be interesting to see next season what that has to bring. And obviously the NBA has seen that, and they're like, we've got a bit of competition now. How do we, they've started to put some rules in with the G League, trying to entice those kids to the G League where they can get paid and stay home. But it's still the experience of going to another country, playing against men as a professional on that level. I think it's only going to help those kids. So there's the pros and cons for either way as well.
You did make mention of that just then. Up and coming young talent, being in the courts and the training facilities every day, mixing it up with fully grown men. I mean, that's the product of the Next Stars program. One of the advantages of that program, in large part, it's to do with NBA rules and eligibility for the NBA draft. Do you see a bigger shift in players from the States taking up the opportunity, say, like you mentioned, in the G League, here in the Next Stars program, as opposed to going down the traditional college route?
Yeah, I think the big thing with college versus professional is if you know you're going to be a one and done prospect, and you're going to go to college for one season, risk injury, and then not get the chance to go to the draft. There's always an argument against that, but some of those kids that know they're going to be in the NBA, they're going to go up the path of going to the G League for 1 year or coming to the NBL for that one season and earning a paycheck and living as a professional and getting that experience, which is, the experience of life, really. So that's always going to be there. And some of the other things we've got, for those that don't know, we've got NBA Global Academy in Canberra. So we've got some of the best talent in Australia in that academy. And some of those players now are graduating, and rather than going to the US college, they're signing with NBL teams.
Yeah.
Proof's in the pudding, isn't it? Because there is coming from, instead of the college path, you have players who've been grown up in the game. One name comes to mind, particularly for me, Luka Doncic.
Mm-hmm.
Played a lot of basketball in his youth, and we talk about him like he's an old man, but geez, he's still young, and he's been playing in Europe for a long time.
Yeah, absolutely. He's an amazing player.
Yeah. Coming to the development, you made mention of the leadership of the NBL under Kesselman and also under the Commissioner Olga. They've brought in the Next Stars program, and they're seeing their way through the growth and reinvigoration of the game. You made mention of the 90s being known as the heyday, but you're quietly confident that this coming period is going to be the heyday that will outshine the previous 90s period.
Absolutely. I mean, we've got names in the league now that we would have dreamt of having here, 10 years ago.
Yeah.
All the clubs now that are signing NBL players, all their imports, the first thing people say, which NBA team did he play for? Like, if an import doesn't come into the league with credentials of NBA experience, then they're not going to cut it.
It's a reject. That's what I think.
And that's how it is. I mean, that's a great thing that we've created. And you had players like Andrew Bogut coming back into the league. These are things that we would have dreamt of happening in the past. And all of a sudden, we're getting these household names on a global stage playing in our local league.
The past generation could be considered a part of the golden era, the trailblazers of the league. You got, you made mention of Bogut and Heel when he made the squad for the Minnesota Timberwolves when he was playing. Gaze won a chip with San Antonio. Your thoughts on the elder statesmen who've paved the way for the game in Australia?
I mean, absolutely. Those guys were the pioneers, really. Like me growing up in that 80s and 90s era, that's really where I looked up to those players and thought, wow, how did they get there? And without them, the new generation, the Ben Simmons and Paddy Mills and Delhi and all those guys, there's no way they would have got there without that generation. So they're the ones and it's always the same case. The older brother, like I am, I've got two younger brothers. Yeah. I paved the generation for them. So it's always the same. You've got the old states always break down that first barrier, and they make it easier for the next group to see it happen. Hey, Luke Longley got those championships. All of a sudden it's possible. We can go from Australia to the biggest stage in the world to get a championship.
I know that one of the memories that stick out for me, talking about the pioneers of the game, and I'm sure RJ you can comment on this because I remember us talking about this when we were in high school. Atlanta Olympics, pre-Olympic Games, Boomers v Dream Team, and Shane the Hammer Heel lands 6 3-pointers in the half. Do you remember that, Jay?
I remember that. Wasn't that in Utah though?
Yeah.
It was in Utah. It was pre-tournament.
And that's when he would try to Glock Barkley.
Yeah.
That's the thing you're talking about, right?
I think that one performance though brought Heel possibly, potentially,
Minnesota.
this is arguable for his contract with Minnesota.
Yeah,
Just
100%.
standing up to Barkley.
Mm.
I think so.
Yeah. Great games, and that was one of the memories that stood out for me in the Pioneer era of the game. Now the way the game's changed in the NBL, I do note that the pioneers of the game, they're still of relevant significance here. I mean, Gaze, all-time best player in the NBL's history. I don't even think that anyone can come close to stating that there's been a better player in the NBL than Andrew Gaze. And he's given back subsequently to the game in the way of coaching. Danny, do you see that this is a trend that is going to happen with this current golden generation of NBA talent that's going to come back to Australia?
Yeah, I think so. I think the current crop of Australian players playing in the NBA, I think like what Andrew Bogut's done, what you'll start finding is a lot of those players, when they come to the back end of their careers, they'll feel like they've got an obligation to Australian basketball to come back and finish 1 or 2 seasons in the NBL. Yeah, and as we start, once we've got 15, 20, 30 NBA players playing currently, as that number grows, I mean, at the moment I think we've got 14 or 15, but as that number grows, in the next few years we might have 20, 25, 30, what you're going to find is every 1 or 2 years there's going to be some of that crop is going to get to retirement age from the league. They may come down here and play 1 or 2 seasons, and they'll help develop the next group of young local talent and work with them daily to help them get to that stage. And once they retire, they'll get into the game. They may get into coaching. It just evolves from there. I think that's what we need to get to a point where Australia becomes a major player in the world. I think we are at the moment. People look at us that way, but I think once we start getting a medal in the World Champs and medals in the Olympics, that starts putting more and more emphasis on the game in Australia.
It's within grasp, isn't it? It's there.
Absolutely.
It's there. And I'm not sure if you went down to Marvel Stadium earlier.
I was there for both games.
Last year. Were you there for the game that
incredible.
Paddy Mills exploded in the fourth and brought home the win? I mean, that's just the caliber and the potential of the talent that Australia has, even playing against arguably the best team in the world in America. So,
and those guys play against those NBA level players every day in the NBA. So it's not like in the early 90s when we come up, these are players that you'd see on TV back then. All of a sudden you're on the court and you're in awe. Before you know it, you're watching them dunk and do all this stuff. And by the time you wake up from that shell shot, it's half time and you're down by 30 points. Yeah. Whereas now they're teammates of those players. Yeah. They play with them every day. They train with them. So they understand what they're capable of, and we're just as good as in that area as well.
Hey Danny, I got a question for you. Let's envision this in the future. So Ben Simmons is towards the end of his career, and so is Paddy Mills. They come to you separately and asking you, Danny, what do I do? Which team should I sign with, Sydney Kings or Illawarra Hawks? What's your advice, Danny?
You have to go there.
This is recorded, Danny. This is recorded. Once something goes on the internet, you always have the internet, so be careful what you say now.
Hey, just sign in the league. Just sign. It'd be amazing to have him sign in the NBL.
Before we get off the current crop of NBA talent, NBA's got about to resume shortly in Orlando in the Walt Disney bubble. Thoughts on the current Australian players and how they'll fare? Name a couple examples of who you think will really make a big impact coming home to finish the season in the NBA.
Australian players?
Yeah, Australian players.
Who we've got? I mean, obviously Ben Simmons. Well, Paddy Mills will be there.
Yep. Jingles.
Yeah. I think. You know what? It's going to be interesting to see how all these players have handled the off season of the COVID lockdown, and what they did in that off season, and what they've done to add to their game for that. My biggest worry is when they come back is I'm just hoping there's not many injuries. You've seen a lot of downtime. Even though they've been working individually, how does it work when you get on court at that level and competing on that level? It's going to be different. Fans in the stadium, smaller venues to play in. It's going to be it's going to be a lot of adjustment for these players.
T, who are you most looking forward to seeing out of the Australian players to play in Orlando?
Yep. I basically want to see Utah Jingles.
Yeah.
He steps up. He steps up once the playoffs come around. See him lock up PG in the last couple of years when he was playing for OKC. That was awesome. When the playoffs come, the Australian grit comes out, and this is the pointy edge of the season, and no player wants to be guarded by any of the Aussie guys. The Aussie guys will make you feel every foul, and I'm proud of that. So
yeah.
So.
Same question, Jay.
I think I want to see how Ben Simmons getting repositioned back to power forward. A lot of people have had a lot to say about that, so I just want to see how they reposition him back into the power forward. So now I just want to see how they rotate between their guys, and what his house position is right now with being in that position. So that's very interesting. I want to see how that plays out in Philadelphia.
Yep. No doubt, all eyes will be on Orlando for the finalization of the season proper. And look, I'm with all basketball fans in wanting to see an outcome. Fingers crossed that there will be an outcome, and looking forward to seeing the Australian players do very, very well in it. Now, just transitioning back again to the NBL, exciting news with, in my view, Tasmania having a team come back into the league after 25 years. I do remember watching the Tassie Devils play out at Hobart, and it's been a long time, 25 years. That's insane how long a team, a city, a state in Australia has gone without an NBL team. Thoughts, Danny, on the recent news of Tasmania's inclusion into the 2021/22 season?
Yeah, I mean, it's exciting. I think we need more teams in the NBL. I remember back in the days, they used to have 16 NBL teams. So I think players these days started getting bored with 8 teams, and you're playing each team 4 times in the season. It's like, come on, we need some new teams to play against, some new blood. It's exciting because it creates more jobs, more opportunities. There's another 3 imports we can get into the league. 8 more Aussie spots that are available for young talent as well. So, it's exciting times. I think it's going to take the league to 10 teams at the time.
Yep.
Once that happens, with Brisbane coming in a few years ago. But yeah, it's going to be great. It's going to be exciting. More opportunities to see more games.
It is going to be exciting, just having an extra dynamic involved. But with all expansions, there's obviously with the brass of the NBL brass, they obviously want to see it done right. And I think there's the right leaders currently involved that want to see it through and make sure that it is done the right way.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Yeah. The way that I'm just reading recently that players and ex-NBA players, being involved in ownership of teams. I saw Zach Randolph has been recently involved with the Phoenix, and it hasn't been a part of the league. This is something new, but yet it doesn't feel that new, does it, when these stars come to focus in on how to make money, really, and how to develop the league. But it is exciting to see that ex-NBA players are turning their attention to Australia.
Yeah, and it's all part of the relationship building between the NBL and the NBA, and bringing a lot of ex-NBA players and some current NBA players playing in our league. You've got Sean Marion over with the New Zealand Breakers, and Josh Childress also with the Phoenix as well. So you've got, and Josh played in the NBL, and
That's right.
you know, he was I think he was drafted in 2004. I think he was a top 10 draft pick at the time. So the more high profile players coming down here, you'll find that in the next 5 to 10 years, that'll be a much more common thing.
Now, is it a dog and pony show, or is it a legit thing with these ex-NBA players coming to take ownership roles?
Yeah, I think it's an opportunity for them to have a new destination they can visit, something different. It's an English-speaking country.
Yeah.
You know, our league is played now summertime. It's their winter over there, so it's a good opportunity for them. You know, they've made their millions and millions, hundreds of millions of dollars. It's, you know, let's see what we can do in a different country, and you know what networks we can build over there. Because a lot of those guys at the end of their basketball careers want to look at what investments they can do, and you know, and Australia's a safe place, one of the best countries in the world. You know, something different for them.
It is going to be exciting, isn't it? Just the way that certain players, certain ex-NBA players are opening the door, bringing more spotlight into the league, because that no doubt will be a strong point for the NBL's leadership team to promote. I mean,
it builds credibility for the league.
Yes. Yeah, that's right. That's right. So not a dog and pony show, but I think it's a legit thing. I think I'm with you on that. Thoughts on that, T?
Yeah, I guess when it first started happening, I thought maybe it's just a gimmick. Like we're not sure if these players actually are invested into these teams, or we're just using the names, just trying to get publicity. But as we see over the years, you're getting more players involved, and there's more teams, so there's a legitimacy there, and they get interviewed on American radio and podcasts over there, and they're raving about the NBL. So it's definitely something that they're proud of, an investment that they can play a big part in. So yeah, I definitely think that it's something that's real, and like Danny spoke about, it's something that I think is going to keep on growing, because it allows, like they said, they make millions of dollars. They can have a destination in Australia. Just talking about they can probably off-ride it in tax, and just there's lots of options there, and come to Australia owning a team, which is kind of cool, you know. I think as every kid out there, basketball kid, like you want to own a team somewhere, somehow.
I did note that the NBL's commissioner, Jeremy Lolliger, did make mention that, you know, for a lot of former and current NBA players, they see, you know, investing into the NBL and being part of the ownership as potentially being a stepping stone to NBA ownership. Dream big, right? I mean, why not?
Why not?
If you've got the means.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you know, obviously it's a much smaller scale in Australia than it is an NBL team than it is to an NBA team. But the fundamentals are still the same. You still got to go through the same thing. You know, you got to get bums on seats in the stadiums. You got to do the marketing. You got to build a team. It's just on a bigger scale when you get to the NBA. So it's a good opportunity for them to you know, wet their teeth, just to say, you know, just here we go. What's it feel like? What's the experience going to be like?
Yeah. And my final question for tonight, I'm going to throw it out to each one of you on the panel tonight. You're appointed as part of the NBL's leadership brass, and an idea to grow the game. Any thoughts on out of the box thinking, like you mentioned earlier, Danny? Out of the box thinking.
You're I know
I've sprung this on you. Sorry.
Maybe give him a sec. Let's go to RJ.
Yes.
Well, to be real honest with you, ever since I saw Larry Stunstock at Nike Factory Auburn, when you sort of look at the way NBL was and the way it is now, I don't know what you guys have done in NBL, but you guys have done a fantastic job, and you need to guys keep doing what you're doing, because the NBL has really grown more in the spotlight in Australia, and I can see it grow more and more every year. And as what Danny said, there's more and more players that wanted to come here, not just to play, but also to invest. So I think the marketing value and the star-studded faces of former NBA players, and to attract, like, even, you know, other executives from the NBA, it's just a fantastic job. You guys have done such a great job. Whoever's behind that plan, hats off to you. You guys have done a great job. I'm sure it's more of the marketing, and bringing more of the big names, from back in the day to the current situation it is now with NBL, and I think it's just great.
Yep. Any takers?
Yeah, I got one.
You
Yeah.
ready?
I think there's two things I'd love to see happen.
Yep.
One of those is, let's bring the best NBA team, best EuroLeague team, or the finalists of both leagues to Australia for a series around Australia.
That's
Hey.
a fantastic idea. That's fantastic.
So
that
that's
is
one
great.
thing- that's one thing I'd love to see, because I know they'd fill up plenty of stadiums around the country.
Oh yeah.
The other thing is, I think the current crop of NBL players, we need to create stories around those players to make them household names.
Yeah, you pretty much took what I'm about to say about making
Oh.
household names. 100%.
I was going to curse there.
you think about when the Sydney Kings had the D train. I remember turning on the TV and he's all over it. Like he has an ad for mobile. He has an ad for city trains. It was the D train, right? So his name matched up with the product of New South Wales trains, and everywhere you went, like we didn't win a championship during that time, but everyone knew who the D train was. Like and in my head, he was pretty much our Michael Jordan in the NBL at the time. Like his skill set and his flashiness was definitely a household name. Like even if you didn't know, even if you didn't know basketball, you knew who the D train was. Like people who don't know basketball know who Michael Jordan is. That's what I think on my level. The NBL needs to get all these players. Like we need to have like the Charles Barkley, Patrick Ewing, like those type of players in every team. So when they came around, they can sell the drama. Like last time this player like Ewing came in town, he dunked on Charles Barkley, and this breeds, I guess, the man drama that we love as basketball fans.
And I think with that, what the current crop of players need to understand, that's what they need to embrace that, not
Yes.
away from it. And I think that's a key piece.
Yep. I'll throw one out there. This probably been done already, so excuse my ignorance on this one. Different towns in Australia have sister cities around the world, and sometimes even in Australia. Are similar to the NBA having a G League affiliate, potentially getting a affiliate down in Australia, being not so much as a feeder club, but maybe potentially as a training resource for bringing in NBA caliber players to train with NBL clubs. Correct me if I'm wrong. I don't know if that's been done or it's in the mix, but just a thought that popped in my head just then.
I don't think it's been done.
Ooh, a lot of logistics involved and a lot of paperwork, I know,
A lot of
but
money.
it would be great to see, the cream of the crop in the NBA just sharing like 3 games, and because I know that the football team in Melbourne City, mind you, there's a lot of city clubs in the world, and I remember when I think it was David Villa came and played for and did a stint with the Melbourne City Football Club, big international football star, and he played 3 games, and it was a big draw card to see the international talent play 3 meaningful games in Australia. But hey, one can dream, and hopefully one day the Kings can be affiliated with the Lakers, and I'm sure my boy there T will enjoy the little connection between the purple and gold teams from across the seas. So yeah,
Definitely, for sure.
Okay, lads, final thoughts on the NBL and its direction and where it's gonna head into the future, because expansion is now confirmed, and will there be more expansion? Will there be further expansion?
Yeah, Danny, with the COVID situation in Melbourne, is that something that the NBL is tracking? Is that going to affect the season if it keeps on increasing?
Yeah, I mean, I think Larry Cashman's announced that they've pushed the season back from early October to I think December 3 at this stage. So
Ooh.
I'm hoping in the next 3 to 4 months they start getting things under control, but they can't push it too late because you got Olympics next year in July. So the season's got to be done well before that for preparation. So it's going to be tough. Who knows where if it flares up again, what they're going to do. But what I do know is we're going to have to get out and try to get back to some normality sooner rather than later. But there's going to be a lot of challenges for the league coming up with off seasons on now. It's managing players. They're used to now August arriving in the country, starting their pre-season, September games, and tip off early October. But now a lot of the players are sitting around waiting. They've got 6 months before season tip off.
Yeah.
Is it financial enough to like create an NBL bubble? Is that something that would be feasible?
I mean, the biggest problem we've got with the NBL is I think the majority of our revenue comes from fans.
Okay. We're
not an NRL or AFL where we get big dollars from media, from TV and all that kind of stuff. So that doesn't exist for us like it does for those other sports. So we're really reliant on having fans in the stadium. And basketball, you're up close. It's conducive to having fans there, and the impact and the atmosphere. So it's going to be if they go ahead without the fans, it's going to be very tough for a lot of the clubs to survive.
But fingers crossed, we do see as a league and as a country a way through these challenging times. And look, Danny, thank you so much for coming on to our show here at the Shooters Roll. I do appreciate your time and your very, very good insights in the game, about the game here in Oz. So thank you so much.
Really appreciate it. Thanks for having me.
That's great. Look, Daddy, you can follow Daddy's business and coaching endeavors on Facebook and Instagram, DKM Blue, as well as #1 draft pick Basketball Academy is on, like I mentioned, Facebook and Instagram pages, and also you could Google his business endeavors and also his coaching endeavors as well. Lads, thank you so much for joining the panel tonight. Thank you for your contributions. And look, for our listeners, thanks for tuning in week in and week out. And we do appreciate your support for our little passion project here. You can follow Shooters Roll on Instagram and also Facebook, and also our pod on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. And don't forget to check out our YouTube channel as well for the latest content that we are producing. So until next time, take care.